and thank you for clicking on this video. I'd like to take a few minutes and share with you some thoughts, especially in this season that we're in currently with all the social distancing that's happening. I'd like to talk to you for a few minutes about loneliness. There are a few facts about loneliness that I think it's important that we understand. The first, and probably the most important, is that loneliness is an inescapable consequence of the fall of man. In the Garden of Eden, when Adam and Eve sinned and they were cast out of the garden, there was a distinctive separation between them and God. And so obviously, being cast out, being cast away from the presence of God, severe loneliness set in upon Adam and Eve, because separation from God leaves us in a condition to where we feel heartsick. What we call heartbreak many times, I think, could probably better be termed as heart lonely. This separation from God causes us to have a deep longing from God. We experience, because of that separation from God, separation from a lot of the things that God would want us to have and the things that He would want us to do, the things that He would want to bless us with, and the people that we should be bringing into our lives that God would send to us, these relationships that would be healthy and strong. Loneliness, while it is the absence of something, it is also the presence of pain, that deep emotional feeling, that experience that we have. When a relationship is broken, we experience the loss of a job or even a loved one. It causes us to feel that deep, stabbing pain in the depths of our soul. We become very heartsick and lonely. Loneliness, I do want you to understand today, is a common human experience. Sometimes when we're lonely, we feel like we're the only ones. Why are we going through this? How will we get through this? How are we gonna get over it? But it's common. It happens to everybody. It happens in a lot of different situations, and we just have to know how to recognize it and how to deal with it. Loneliness, really, at its root, is a spiritual issue. It's really can only be solved by a deep yearning for God, calling out to Him, seeking His face so that God could come and heal us within. Loneliness cannot be fixed by surrounding ourselves with people, not even the right kind of people. I see a lot of times of people in relationships, whether it's a dating relationship or even a marriage, that somehow they break up and their heart is broken. That lonely feeling causes them to feel like they're going to be lonely forever. And so immediately they try to enter into another relationship only to find out that just makes it worse. We call that dating on the rebound, or pursuing a relationship on a rebound. Most times that's not going to work. And so I just want to kind of break down loneliness for you today and tell you that there are three types of loneliness, in my opinion. First of all, there's loneliness that is caused by the absence of people, some of the things that I just spoke about. It can also extend into relationships in the workplace, maybe a boss that you enjoyed working under and maybe he left the company, or you changed jobs or something of that nature. That coworker in the cubicle next to you, maybe it was a best friend. There was a rift in the relationship and you parted ways. And so loneliness sets in because of the absence of people in our lives. Second of all, loneliness is caused by sin. And I feel that this is the worst cause of loneliness, because it begins to snowball. And a lot of times we fall into sin, or someone makes a mistake and then they add insult to injury and they add another mistake to that. And sin after sin only brings more and more distance between us and God. The third kind of loneliness or cause of loneliness is what I call intentional loneliness, by purposing ourselves to participate in what Paul called in Philippians 3 and 10, the fellowship of his suffering. This is this conscious decision that we make to pursue God in a deeper relationship, and we are willing to suffer anything to have more of him. Paul said that I might know him. But there's a loneliness in this road of discipleship. And discipleship, true discipleship, requires that we leave others behind in pursuit of him. And so this isn't really a bad thing, it's a good thing, because godly suffering eventually brings immeasurable joy. The things that we would suffer loss of today, Paul said, I count those things but dung that I may win Christ. And so in our pursuit of winning Christ, there is a certain element of loneliness. The road in that pursuit, many times we feel isolated. We feel that nobody else is feeling this hunger and this passion, but we go anyway. So I would like to say that I think number 3 can fix number 1 and number 2. I think the spiritual pursuit of God allows us to repair relationships and to feel the peace of God that passeth all understanding, to have that immeasurable joy. When we pursue him spiritually, the other 2 types of loneliness are able to be combated, and that joy overtakes us. In Romans 8 and 28, Paul said, and we know that all things work together for good to them that love God, that to them that are the called according to his purpose. And that includes loneliness. Even loneliness can work together for our good. It helps us to grow a deeper relationship with him and pursue our calling and find our purpose. And with that, we begin to attract the right people. We begin to overcome sin, have power over sin. And so in that way, loneliness can work together for our good. Loneliness should overall lead us to our deepest spiritual need, who is Christ. Many times we don't understand why God allows certain things to happen in our lives. And we want to blame the enemy. We want to blame ourselves. Sometimes the flesh even wants to blame God because we truly do not understand. Why do I feel so alone? Why do I feel so isolated? And why do I feel so disconnected? And so the answer in all of this, in the fix of this, is to pursue God today with a greater sense of urgency than you did in the past. And I believe that God will begin to repair things in your life. We use words like wilderness and desert, or sometimes we say that we're going through a valley or a trial. And I'd like to just kind of flip your understanding about wilderness today, because if you were to look up wilderness in the Hebrew, in the Old Testament, the word wilderness in the Hebrew is the Hebrew word midbar, which means voice or speaking. The Hebrews equated the wilderness with God's voice. And if you read in Scripture, many times you will see over and over that God allowed his people to go through the wilderness. He allowed him to go through desert places and dry places, even droughts. But the Hebrews understood that these were times that God was trying to get them alone. It was going to be the place where his voice would speak. And so I want to encourage you today and tell you that in your loneliest times, if you will seek him, the Bible said, seek him if haply he may be found of you, though he be not far from any one of us. In the middle of your loneliness, you can and you will hear the voice of God speaking to you if you will listen. And that's my thought for today. I want to thank you for clicking on this video, and I want to encourage you to click the button right underneath this that says subscribe. Subscribe to our channel if you want to keep up with our weekly postings. And we'll look forward to seeing you again.